from the service, and I can re-register it, because now again I am talking back to the back-end service. Now the one thing I can do now also is I can terminate it, and when I terminate it, you'll notice that the command window was closed and it also was taken off the list, and now the JConsole no longer has anything to connect to, so it comes back and prompts me. So that was adding a management console or management information to a existing ISL service. Now we're going to take and make it and turn it into a web service. Again, we just changed the property for web service, enable it, close that, we come over and we restart it, and by restarting it, it picks up the new property. It's now registered, and now when I right click, it takes a second to for it to pull down the advertisements. It noticed now that it is now advertising that it has a WSDL. I can then click on that and it will pull up a web page and it'll browse and it'll show me the WSDL. Now the WSDL here shows the complex types for the address, which includes the phone number, which is also a complex type. Area code and the exchange are also listed within the WSDL. If we go down the bottom, we have the port for the service, and we also have two operations, the add entry and the other operation is the get address operation. So these operations are built in. So this is a WSDL that now can be used by another person to generate his own code. I'm going to go over and use our own little import WSDL tool. This thing pulls up, it takes a WSDL or a file. So I'm going to come up first and I'm going to copy the location of the WSDL, and now I won't need this anymore, and I'll paste that into the WSDL location, and I'm going to create a class called test.testAddress, and I'm going to browse for a location to stick that in, and I have a generated directory. I'm going to stick code in there. I'm going to select that directory, and now I'm going to import. Now during the import, it parses the WSDL, it generates the code, it compiles the code, it creates the address book service, and then it's done. Now at this point, everything is done and all the code is stored in that generated directory, compiled and ready to run. So now I have a script ready, and what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to run with isl.jar and the web services RT. I'm going to run the test address class that I created. Now when this runs as part of the code we generated, we change the name to, we prefix the name with ISL in this case, although it's configurable. And we also created a service and registered it. So now we pull this up, we'll notice that we can no longer display the WSDL for this service because we don't, this is already a web service interface, so there's no sense making a WSDL for it. This one make sure that it doesn't allow that, but you can still manage it, you can see the attributes, and you can generate the graphical user interface. Now we're going to use the graphical interface that was provided, and it'll look very similar because we've exposed the same methods. We have a get address and an add entry. Using the get address, we'll see if we can retrieve the GITI that was provided earlier. And there it is. So we now have an ISL service, the address book service, which is acting like a web service, and we have a wrapper that has wrapped that web service and is communicating with it and communicating with the back end and actually sent, and you'll see some of the information displayed as the SOAP messages that were actually exchanged between the objects. So that completes the demonstration. What we've done is we've shown how easy it is to create a generic service. We've added management capabilities to that service. Then we've exposed that service as a web service. And then the last step is we took a WSDL that was given to us from that service, and we wrapped it dynamically as a ISL component and then included it in our lookup service.